welcome to Film Freaks. I'm your host, Jonathan Moody, and I'm with...
A Presenza, known as the Moo Cow. Moo.
And I'm with...
Lenore. Hi.
And...
Micah.
Alright, so we're here to talk about Paul's movie.
Yay, we watched the 1939 RKO classic Gunga Din.
Woo!
Yay, directed by George Stevens and starring Cary Grant, Douglas Fairbanks Jr., Victor McLagan, Joan Fontaine, and Sam Jaffe. And it's just a fabulous, fabulous adventure film from 1939, which actually sort of it's bad luck because it happened to come out the exact same year as Wizard of Oz and what's the one with Tara and the Civil War?
Oh, Gone with the Wind,
and a few other sort of big movies. So while they probably should have gotten a lot of Academy Awards, that particular year was really rough. Mm-hmm. So, but performances were great. The direction was great. Everything was really, really cool. I'd seen it many times. It was a movie I loved since I was a small kid. But I think this was the first time you guys had seen it. Yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't seen it before.
I think I might. I think I saw it before, but it's been a long time, so I forgot about it. And I might have only seen part of it before. Yeah.
Okay. This was a movie that was shot in RKO Studios back in the day for $1.9 million, which was a lot back then. But the box office was 2.8, so it actually made quite a lot of movies. And it was the number 10 highest grossing film of that year. So it did pretty well. And actually, this movie was selected for the National Film Registry for preservation because it's considered an extremely important film. And the guy who did the screenplay, William Goldman, the guy who did the screenplay for Princess Bride, this is his favorite film, and he says it's one of the best movies of that particular period. So, and the plot is a movie. It follows the story that's laid out in the poem written by Rudyard Kipling back in, I think, 1880 something, set in Victorian times in India during the British occupation, and it's, I guess, in the northern part of India, and these three ne'er-do-well friends who are in the army get involved when a cult of Kali starts to take over in the north, and they have to help put it down. And at the same time, they're buddies, and one of them is going to get married and leave the service and get into the tea business, which would be a horrible thing. So there's a lot of kind of screwball comedy that's also in the film. And so it's a buddy film, it's an adventure film, it's an action film, it's a romance film. It's got a little bit of everything. So what did you guys think?
You want to go first?
Oh, wow. It's an enjoyable movie on a lot of accounts. By modern standards, there are certain things that it falls short of, in my opinion. But for 1939, it's pretty incredible. The choreography, in particular, I think is the highlight for me. The fighting scenes are really well orchestrated. There's a lot of sort of near acrobatics of sorts, at least for moving around and fighting. It seems it's comedic fighting style, which really wasn't introduced too often back then, or wasn't pulled off very well. That part is pretty good. The introduction to the main characters is something that would have been very idealistic at the time. These three rugged men introduced beating up some random strangers over their own personal...
The crooked sale of a map. I personally, not my own cup of tea, but it's fun, and the overall plot changes are pretty enjoyable. There's a lot of altruistic sort of just charging into battle by the main characters, and that part's fun. The cult of Kali is it's a sort of it is a lot of beautiful scenery, and it's I don't think it's very realistic, but it's
It's fun,
Well,
you know.
As far as the cult of Kali is concerned, they were. It was accurate in the fact that they were a murder cult. They did a lot of atrocious things that the Indians had a problem with, and then when the British took over, they had deals with as well. However, the one anachronistic thing is that they would not have, according to the literature I've read, they would not have actually killed foreigners. So they wouldn't have bothered killing English people because it wouldn't have been considered a proper sacrifice to their goddess. They had no problem killing other Indians, but they wouldn't have done that. However, if they had just stuck with the Indians, would the British Army have really cared? Possibly not. So in order to really get them charged up and charging down the hill, they had to kill some of the colonial settlers and soldiers to sort of get them involved. So there's that. What about you, Lenore? What did you think?
I'm not sure how much I liked the main characters. I liked Gunga Din.
Okay.
I thought his death was heroic, and I was really sad when he died. But McChesney, he poisoned someone, and it's treated as no big deal. And he throws somebody out the window, and it's treated like no big deal. And the other guy, he went there with the only intention of stealing.
Oh, Valentine.
No, the other Cutter.
Cutter.
Who wanted to just steal things.
Just wanted gold.
And then at the end, they trick Valentine into rejoining the military. I don't think he's going to be staying married long because he didn't even tell his fiance.
Yeah.
That he was rejoining the military.
There's definitely sort of a bromance kind of a thing going on with the guys, and bros before hoes wasn't really a term back in the 1930s, but that's kind of where that is going with that.
Didn't you say this was like one of the first bro?
Yeah, it's one of the first buddy adventure kind of movies. It really is. So in the way, it's kind of sort of feeling its way along and trying to, Joan Fontaine's character, she might be a little, I don't know, a little underwritten on purpose, I think. She's there to look pretty and to sort of represent a nice, safe, stable life that everybody is supposed to want to have, but these rollicking adventurers, they're kind of like, they haven't grown up yet, so they don't really want to do that. They want to run around and get into fights and get drunk and buy treasure maps and do all this adventure stuff, and that's what it is. That's the charm of the film. It's like saying these guys never really grew up and they're having these rollicking adventures, but at the same time, there's a lot of seriousness too. And I think the cool part of the thing for me is that while the movie sets these guys up to sort of be the adventure-y hero types, they're really not the hero. And when push comes to shove, it's the little guy at the bottom who rises to the top and saves not only them, but saves the whole troop. So, and that's kind of the point of the movie, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, one of my little favorite scenes in the thing is just in the beginning where they were told not to have Valentine. Valentine was supposed to be leaving, right, and everything. So they're like, "You're dismissed," and he just kind of hangs around because he's used to being with these guys.
Right.
They're like, "You're dismissed, Valentine." So he's like, "All right." So he takes off and he walks away. But then he kind of listens in because he wants to hear what they're doing.
Right.
He still wants, and they're both like, "We want him back," and then they get stuck with
Higginbottom.
Oh my! Which I kept calling him Higginbottom.
Hated him. They just hated him.
But why did they poisoned him?
They poisoned him. But originally,
with elephant medicine.
Originally, were they going to poison Valentine because there was that line of "Where's Valentine?"
Yeah, I think the idea was they were going to go in and wreck the reception by, making the punch undrinkable or make people ill. Okay, not the best idea in the world. It's sort of the thing a dumbass, college kid or high school kid might do.
Yeah, it's standard. That's standard sort of sophomore humor. There's nothing I don't know. I wouldn't call it a romance. You can throw in a moment of romance in there, but it's certainly not a romance movie.
Well,
it's a bromance movie, definitely.
Right. It's kind of like Animal House.
In a way.
This, I could see people, John Landis, when he was doing Animal House, thinking about Gunga Din. I don't know, like it's got a little bit of that to it. So.
Right.
What were we saying?
Oh, well, the other thing I think I would like to say is that, although Gunga Din is displayed as the hero of the movie, I don't actually enjoy the ending with him dressed in fake military regale and displayed as a soldier. But I do like the one emotional transition of one of the characters, which is Valentine's decision to join to go, to continue the just endless journey of battle with his comrades in arms, and that's the pivot that happens, at least internally within any of the characters. The rest of the stuff is all just what they would normally do, which is rush into battle and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, I like how they each have their own little sort of thing.
Yeah.
McChesney is the rough, tough, no nonsense guy, but he's also got a heart for Annie the elephant. And when he thinks it's stolen by the Tuggies, he's like, "I'll break every Tuggy back in India," because he wants to have his elephant back. He loves the elephant. And
he kind of grew on me, but at first I really didn't like him. Honestly, just like Lenore said,
he's a little too gruff.
He poisoned somebody, didn't care, but so did Cary Grant's character of Cutter.
He's a rascal too.
They both didn't seem to care that they poisoned their.
Ends justify the means is definitely a credo for those two.
Yeah, but then McChesney threw his buddy, threw Cutter in the frickin' prison, I know he was drunk and everything, but he didn't have to do that. He only did it because he was trying to stop him from going.
Right, on another harebrained scheme that got them, in trouble in the very first scene where they had to fight the Scotsman.
Yeah.
Because they went after a bogus treasure map.
Yeah.
So, I can understand that, and that's Cary Grant's character's thing, is that he's greedy. So anytime that there's a chance, no matter how ridiculous, for him to get a bunch of money, he'll go for it, even no matter how ridiculous it sounds.
Even though, you could see, him staring at the gold or whatever, basically his, freaking mouth is dropping. There's, dollar signs on his eyes, in a way,
Pound signs in that case.
Yeah, exactly, pound signs in that case. And just, that's all he wants, is the gold. And, it's just... It just made me, I don't know, I always loved Cary Grant, but this is definitely a different, film for him.
Right.
Something that kind of showed his range as an actor, but, that accent, come on. That accent is awful.
Something that's got to be said is that they were all playing British people, and they fell in and out of their accents, which were not good when they were in them.
Right. Well, remember, those are the years of what's called the Mid-Atlantic accent. So all the actors were sort of taught to speak and enunciate in that Northern Atlantic dialect, Katharine Hepburn and
the strange radio sounding kind of voice.
Right, exactly. So they had to ditch that and then do these English accents, or Indian, as the case would be. And some of them struggled with it.
I think that the Indian accents were at least consistent. The people playing Indian accents pulled them off. At least they held it a standard accent of some sort, as well as they could. It's fine. It's not. It doesn't have to be up to our standards in that regard. Annie the elephant's character was great.
Oh, I love Annie.
Yeah.
If anything, she should have been featured more. If somehow they could have taken the elephant hostage and had her
she was
save
great.
The day at the end.
She wasn't just cute elephant. She had personality.
Yeah, instead of having Cary Grant fire the shot at the end, if the elephant could have wrapped her trunk around him and then saved the day.
Annie could have blown the bugle, dude.
Oh yeah, Annie blowing the bugle. That would have been great.
Oh my god, the movie could have been called Annie.
That's right.
That
would have been funny.
But no, I like that. The accents reminded me of Mary Poppins, Dick Van Dyke's accent. Very, very it just
Blinkin'
almost
and
sounds.
bloomin'.
Yeah, and it sounds very fake.
Right.
But then again, I also wanted to mention about the Indians being American or whatever, or British. I don't know what they were in real life. But the actors being, not, being with black,
Oh yeah, they were done in blackface.
Yeah.
Which was what was done at the time. It's It's 1939,
Right.
so
And it wasn't like they were doing that to sort of make fun of anyone.
Right.
They were doing it to try and bring some verisimilitude to it, because in 1939 they simply did not have a lot of Indian actors to choose from. And as we've discussed before, sure, if we were to make this film now, there'd be plenty of people, but for them, they had to do what they had to do. So.
But I think the guy who played Gunga Din was just wonderful.
Sam Jaffe was fabulous. He should have won an Academy Award. He was. I think they wanted to nominate him, but it just happened at a bad time, for the film, because there were just so many other things getting nominated.
His expressions on his face when they were, when like his wide-eyed expression was just so funny.
I love that he's not a Mary Sue.
comedic.
I mean, he has his temper too.
Right.
And he actually yells at McChesney at one point, which I thought was fun. And then it's interesting because when Cutter and him go to the temple, and Cutter's jumping up and down, he's like, he can't believe there's all this gold, and he's going to spend all this money and get all this stuff, and Gunga Din's like, oh, I'd be happy with my bugle. That's all I really want.
And he got to use it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what all he cared about. He almost wanted to blow it at that one point, and and Cutter told him no, and everything, which I guess was a good thing because it would have.
So you made a comment during the film that I thought was interesting. You said there was a lot more humor in it than you expected.
Yes.
So were you expecting it more to be sort of a straight up military film?
Probably, yeah. I mean, because just the name Gunga Din, I didn't know what that necessarily meant. You know what I mean? Like I didn't know. I knew it was somewhat of a war movie kind of thing.
Well, there's none in the poem. I can tell you that much.
There's no comedy in the poem.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm guessing that's Hollywood. Basically trying to interest people.
Right.
And what I liked about the humor in this was it wasn't bad humor. It wasn't stupid. It wasn't silly. It was like pretty good humor.
It was character-based humor. I liked that.
Definitely. I enjoyed the humor. I laughed a lot, which I was not expecting. Because I didn't know what to expect. And I never know what to expect with you. But I always know that you know good movies when you pick good movies. So you know bad movies as well. So you know those two different things. And I think you did a really good job picking something that I think more people should know. I think you had actually said a comment about how this should be a Criterion film.
I think so.
And everything. So I agree with you. This should be a Criterion
I would
film.
love to see a Criterion Blu-ray or 4K restoration.
Oh my God, yeah. With some like historical commentary.
Because
or something.
the background where they shot it in California was gorgeous, and I think Gary, who watched the movie with us but had to leave, he pointed out that the place that this was shot was chosen because of its similarity to the Khyber Pass. And in California, it just looked gorgeous. I mean, the sets,
the scenic shots were
scenery,
really well done. And the number of horses they had charging.
Oh my God,
that was cool too.
Yeah, and that's just it. You're never going to get that in a modern film. That's all going to be CGI now because nobody could afford to get those horses like that or the elephants. I mean, you saw the guy was like sticking his hand in the elephant's mouth and
his head practically.
Man,
yeah, that's some ballsy stuff. Even if it's a trained elephant, that elephant could still close its mouth at that particular time.
Or just stomp the hell out of someone if it wanted to.
Yeah. And oh man, when Annie lifted her leg up to not put it on I was like, that is a fucking well-trained elephant. They were telling, no, Annie, and she was actually listening to them. It was like that. I don't ever see elephants in movies much. You just don't.
Right. Well, the insurance for that, it would be astronomical today.
Yeah.
You'll never see that.
Yeah, but it's wonderful to see that in the film. There's 6 elephants that were in the movie or something that you see, and Annie she just stole the show.
Favorite one. Yeah, she really does. It's pretty adorable, and I love how he wants her to help break out of the prison with just remove the bars. Well, she does a little bit more than just remove the bars. She just knocks the whole damn thing down.
Yeah, that scene was fun. There were a lot of fun scenes like that where something was more than expected, like the elephant not just ripping the bars down but knocking the whole building over.
Which pissed McChesney off so bad. He was angry about that.
Yeah, the elephant was the best character, I think.
Yeah. Well, the other question I had, and I think I may have asked this, but may have asked it the wrong way when we were watching the movie, but like, what was they had the horse, was it tranquilizer or something?
Oh, you mean her medicine?
Yeah,
Some-
what's her medicine?
Some kind of Indian. It said elephant elixir,
Elixir.
and then the one Indian guy said that it was an old Indian remedy.
Remedy. Okay, but nobody knows for what.
No, it's probably a MacGuffin of some kind.
Because she fell right after.
At first, right?
Yeah, and stuff, and I even looked at you and I was worried because I thought that was it for the elephant, and then you're like, oh no, she's still alive.
Right.
Yeah, and then they pour it into the punch, poison taking.
Boys will be boys, I suppose.
I know. I didn't really because I just saw it as like an Animal House kind of scene where they're gonna poison the people, but they're not poisoning them. They're just
Right.
like knocking them out.
They're supposed to be in the military.
I know, but even military people are rapscallions, I guess.
Oh yeah, and look at what they're doing. I mean, they're buying
Going to
treasure
heaven.
maps and trying to go for gold temples and looking for sunken barges with emeralds.
Well, that's just
get
Cutter.
rich quick.
Because Mick Chesney does not want to do that. He's like, I'm serious. We're not going to get in any trouble anymore because of your shenanigans. Basically,
Right.
He's saying that to him, and he's like, "Come on, there's gold. We can get the gold."
And the funny thing is, he does it in such a way that you can't help but liking him. I mean, he's such a rascal. He's the fluffer of the group. He's just, you just can't help but let him do his thing.
Yeah.
It's funny.
I really liked Cary Grant, but I also, like I said, it was a different role. It was not. I'm used to seeing him be like the leading man, stuff. His Girl Friday or any of the Hitchcock
In the
stuff.
Hitchcock movie, right?
Yeah, stuff like that. And then here he is. He's kind of one of the guys,
Right.
like
He's not the normal, smooth, suave guy in a tuxedo, talking all kinds of wonderful, lovely words to women. He's a roughneck. He's a roughneck, blue collar soldier.
What about that scene?
Cockney soldier.
The fight scene in the beginning when the guy took a freaking
The chair.
the chair to him, and he's just like, it didn't hurt him, but he starts like knocks the guy out, and like through a window too or
Right.
something and then no, the guy's like, hey, let that guy go.
Take
He's
your
like,
hands off him.
Take
All
his
right.
hands off.
Yeah, the action was slapstick. The motions were, it was kind of, it's not as good as like Jackie Chan, but it was Jackie Chan type comedy for the age, where a lot of the actual comedy is coming from how big and how ridiculous the fight scenes are and the
Right, right.
movements,
But
and how invincible the people are.
But
that are,
it
like,
doesn't
main
verge
characters.
into being a cartoon because
No.
consequences happen. People die. People get wounded. People bleed. People are in pain. You know what I mean? Even our heroes get shot and bayoneted. My goodness. For a second there, I thought you thought they were dead when Gunga Din gets bayoneted and Cutter gets bayoneted and shot.
Right, I thought they were dead. I thought, oh my god, and that would have just turned a different tune for me. Like,
Right.
I wouldn't have been happy with that. Which everybody always complains, oh, we want dark endings these days and stuff like that. Back in the 30s, they didn't like those.
That was a
were-
depression. They wanted to make people enjoy and have a great time.
Right. So I enjoyed it too. Like, I was wanting these guys. I was sad about Gunga, but at the end of the movie, I thought that was the best way for him to go. Is like he was a soldier at that particular moment, and I felt like that was like his way to go out.
Just a little explanation with regards to Gunga Din. He is and you have to understand, India, especially in those days, and I'm not just talking about the 30s, I'm talking about in the Victorian era, is an extremely hierarchical society with the caste system. And he's coming from the lowest of the low, what they call the untouchables. They're literally people that are not allowed to be touched because they're considered just filthy people. So they have basically no lives, no chance. They have nothing. All they can do is beg on the streets. So he is somebody who has joined up. He can't join as a regular soldier because he's not allowed to, but he becomes what they call a beastie, which is somebody who's going to carry water or carry stuff for them and maybe a lavi, basically.
Didn't they call him a slave?
Well, the one guy called him a slave. The evil guy the guru called him a slave. He's like, I'm not a slave. I'm a beastie.
Oh, okay.
He's like, he actually has like a career, a career path. He's getting paid. You know, for somebody at the lowest end of the caste system, this is like a big deal to him. And so he really throws himself into it. Now he aspires to be more. He's always trying to sort of become, he wants to be a soldier. He's got the bugle. He pretends to march around and he does all that stuff. And you can tell Cotter likes that, and he wants to see him succeed, and he's always helping him, saying, "Oh, you want to salute like that, and you want a couple inches in, and you know what I mean." He's helping him along, and it's one thing to sort of dream about it, but he actually gets his opportunity when the time comes to really step up. And not only does he step up, he steps up in a way that's better, braver than everybody else.
Yeah.
You know, so I know that there are those who look at that and think it's an anti-Indian or racist film, but on balance, I mean, you look at a lot of the other Indians who are assisting the British. I mean, they're very brave. You know, they're very disciplined. The Sikhs with their turbans and beards and lances, they're the ones who really clean up at the end. You know, after the British start the fight, they come in and clean up. They're really cool. I mean, none of the other soldiers are looked like ridiculous in any kind of way. They're all very professional. It's just that the murderous band of Tuggies are and even they don't really look comical so much as just evil.
Yeah.
You know, and even the guru himself, he was probably an extremely smart, brilliant person. Just happened to be, a little power hungry and nuts, as it is.
Yeah, he was the only one that was portrayed as being demented. And, I think what would have been really awesome, too, is if sort of Gunga Din was like, I mean, he didn't just earn a spot in the military, but if he earned a spot, like this trio of, like, three guys being the, like, we're the, we're a troop of awesomeness or whatever is what they're, the bromance going on. So, like, that Gunga Din sort of, like, was part of the bromance. Like, he was the side character that earned his way into the bromance.
Right.
Even though he has to die to do it. So.
Yeah, as you do.
It's kind of a shame, but it's I don't know. I really kind of liked it. It's like he's the one that shows them how to be a proper soldier and a better person. And you look at McChesney's face at the end when the guy says he's reading the lines from the Rudyard Kipling poem. And he says, "Even though I belted you and beat you and called you terrible names and everything," and he's like, "Oh, that was me," He knows he fucked up,
Right. Okay, so the one thing I didn't like is, like, okay, so if you're gonna bring in the poem and everything, I feel like Rudyard Kipling should have been there the whole time, because really he's just like hearing recollections, but in real life he was actually there. He saw a lot of these things, and that's why he wrote the poem. So it would have been it'd be great if he were like the fifth wheel, or whatever.
As a war correspondent back then, he would have wandered all over the place and would have gone from station to station. So he probably couldn't have been stationed there long
the whole
term,
time. Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
But obviously he was familiar enough with the colonel that he was able to sort of get himself invited along, and he goes out for when they do their reconnoiters, when they do maneuvers, and so he probably had a circuit that he went all around different cities in part of the north and said, well, I went here and I'm going to go here and I'll be back in a couple months. So he was probably familiar to all of them.
Yeah.
At least enough to write the poem, certainly.
When did was he alive during this time when they were making the movie?
Rudyard Kipling?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Okay, I was gonna say, because I would love to have heard what he thought of this actual movie and everything like that, of the portrayal, but I don't. Yeah, I assume.
I wanna say I think he died in something like right around World War I or just after. I don't think he made it as far into the 30s.
And so he made it. All right. Well, he didn't make it.
But I'm not sure. I'd have to go and look that up. But as far as the battle scenes, they were all pretty exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No problems with the battle.
Both the mountain scene at the end, and then the really cool. Remember, I was mentioning it's kind of like a D&D adventure when they go into the town, and they have to fight in the rooftops and in the streets, and they're fighting with dynamite, and they're blowing up stuff, and then they have to jump over the cliff, into the water, and he was really cool. It was a lot of fun.
We didn't talk about Douglas Fairbanks much.
Right. Swashbuckling Douglas Fairbanks.
Which I feel like they didn't have enough money to pay him because, like, as much as everybody else, because he's not in it as much as the other two guys. You know, but he's still, I mean, he's got a great character.
Yeah, and he gets to do some swashbuckling. He gets to do some sword stuff because remember he's Captain Blood and he's Seahawk and a bunch of the other really big pirate era
he's a
movies
big pirate
in the 30s.
guy.
So, and I think he also does Robin Hood. I think he's one of the early Robin Hood guys.
So yeah, he was wonderful. I always remember seeing on TV all his swashbuckling movies and everything, and to go back to Princess Bride or whatever, I feel like Princess Bride with the way Carrie Elwes looked like him. He swashbuckled like him. Mm-hmm. So there was, I think, really William Goldman put a lot of just, you know, that thought of this is what I want this to look like and everything. And Rob Reiner, you know, fulfilled that with casting him and stuff.
It's like Andre the Giant is McChesney and what's his face? Inigo Montoya is Cary Grant.
Oh my God. And there's actually a scene that reminded me of Princess Bride. There's a scene where they're at the wall, you know, and they're like standing at the wall and everything. That is actually in Princess Bride, is like there's that, now in this movie they're getting shot at, you know, or whatever with the wall. But in the actual movie, in the Princess Bride, they're talking and everything, and he's waking up from his things. I think there's a lot of, you know, and you can say the same thing about this movie that you can say about Princess Bride, which was the Princess Bride line in the beginning of the movie says, like, there's action, there's adventure, there's romance, there's, you know, all the romance, there's just bromance, but
true love, miracles.
Yeah, true love,
cute animals,
miracles
pirates,
are definitely miracles.
Fencing, fighting, sword
punch.
play.
Yeah, punch.
I'll try to stay awake.
And I think this movie kind of also is like, you know, like that.
And clearly, this movie had an influence on Steven Spielberg too, in Temple of Doom and all of that. You know, I never really cared for Temple of Doom. I thought it was a bad film.
I think you don't care for Steven Spielberg much.
I don't, but I did like the first Indiana Jones, even though it's not real archaeology. But that aside, it's an adventure. It's a 30s style adventure, pulp adventure movie, which is exactly what Gunga Din is too.
I like Spielberg's. What's the Japanese movie? The Land of the Sun.
Rising Sun.
The Land of the Rising Sun, is that one?
So.
The one with the child that gets stuck in the Japanese concentration camp.
Oh yeah.
I really love that movie.
I forget the name of that one. I know what you mean. It's
oh no, Rising Sun.
English boy, you come now.
Yeah, I don't know what it. Yeah, that movie.
That was a good movie.
I really enjoyed that movie a lot.
Oh, Empire of
the
Sun.
Sun.
Empire of the Sun. Yeah.
So, and you know, most of this list is pretty good too, but that's. You know, different.
I'm a big Spielberg fan. I don't care. No,
that's all right.
I like all.
But clearly he's trying to channel in that 30s kind of stuff or the feeling into Temple of Doom.
And there's a lot of stuff when you actually go to the temple that they're in or whatever. There's a lot of Temple of Doom stuff in there.
It just doesn't have that irritating little kid.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I liked him. I like, you know,
to draw in the kids so he can sell.
I think that was why I liked him when I was a kid. You know, but he was in Goonies, so you know.
Wait, who was in Goonies?
The kid from Temple of Doom. The one
Dr.
that
Jones?
no more love, no love,
sure,
Dr. Jones.
Yeah.
Everybody loves Goonies.
But yeah, he was and that's why he got Goonies is because of Steven Spielberg.
Well,
you know,
the kid who plays Mikey, like I love that he wasn't in anything, and then he was in Rudy, and then he's suddenly in Lord of the Rings. You know,
Sean
like,
Astin.
He's
Stranger Things.
Stranger Things.
Yeah, that's true.
He's huge. He's huge. You know.
Well, he is. He just had like nothing for a really long time, but everything he chose was really epic.
Yeah.
And while you know Douglas Fairbanks Jr. was a star at the time, he didn't quite rise up as far as Cary Grant does. Cary Grant becomes the star of his era. And then, of course, this is right before your movie, Rebecca. Joan Fontaine is the one who plays the wife Emmy, and this is the role she took right before that film, which is interesting.
It's interesting because I honestly think like she's definitely a throwaway character. Like almost any actress probably could have played that role, and it's not because she's not a bad actress. It's just like the character, and as you said earlier, it was like underwritten and everything. Probably,
on purpose.
Yeah, probably because like the whole idea is they wanted to focus on the guys.
Right.
So when they kind of bring in the girl, it's only to just kind of distract from the main plot. It's like a B plot.
Her thing is to be, beautiful and to represent home and hearth and responsibility. Now, for their part, they don't make her stupid. They don't make her an idiot. She's the one with common sense. In fact, she's the one who only has the common sense out of the whole group.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with her. Yeah.
And she clearly sees what he either doesn't see or doesn't want to see, is that the friends are engineering everything behind his back. And she's not fooled at all.
She's pretty. Yeah, she's like, you didn't sign anything. And he's like,
right. First thing she says.
Why would you ask that?
Right after she asked him if he like she said something about lying. And he was like, "Oh, I would never lie to you." And then she asked that question. He's like, why would you ask me this question?
She's always got pointed questions, straight to the heart of the matter. She's no dummy.
She is no dummy.
But the main characters want to be dummies.
They enjoy
exactly.
That.
They are happy doing what they're doing. Now, this is the thing. This is the era of swashbuckling adventure as war. Things change after World War II, when millions of people died during war, and the horrors become a lot more obvious. And of course, as time goes on, you get into the 60s, and people see war every night on the TV with Vietnam. That ushers in a whole new view of warfare, and the idea of war being rollicking fun, that doesn't play. You can't do that.
No, you're right. I mean, World War I really affected Europe a lot more than America. I mean, so even 20 years later, after that ended, the Americans wouldn't be remembering that. None of them really fought as soldiers in World War I. They didn't go through all the trench warfare. So they're
right. England, Germany, Russia, France, they lost generations of young men. America, they lost 30,000 people, 30,000 soldiers, but towards the end. But it wasn't World War II World War II just took that and went, okay, hold my beer, I'll show you death.
Sure.
So
Russians lost 20 million?
Oh my God.
People.
So you're not going to see that kind of thing happen. Now you might do it in kind of a dark, twisted way, like Quentin Tarantino might do.
Like Inglourious Basterds kind of thing.
Precisely. But otherwise, the day of war being rollicking fun adventure is long gone. You're not going to see that again.
Well, right. And I'm kind of glad about that. That's just that's like, the whole idea is it's not supposed to be like war is hell, and that's what most, Saving Private Ryan, to go back to Spielberg, or any war movies, they try not to show it as this fun adventure, or whatever, because it's not. Because if you show that, you're kind of you're lying to the audience in a way. Now back in the 30s and everything, it might have been more, people could have that little bit of
and
escape.
that's kind of the thing. I think part of the reason World War I, World War II, a lot of people joined up because it appeared that it might be sort of rollicking fun adventure.
Right.
War will make a man of you. No, it'll make a corpse of you.
However, a lot of people still. I mean, I guess in today's world of technology and everything, people can go into the army very easily. There's no real draft or anything anymore. But if there was another one, maybe they would make another movie like this that would kind of entice people to want to go into the army.
I'm sorry I have to point out, but there is a sandburr right there for those of us who have bare feet. So. I'm waiting to stab
We've
someone.
got sandburrs.
That's right. We were shooting on the beach earlier. Oh, here's the good time to plug what you were shooting for.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Or maybe, or not.
Well,
that's... But before we do, I do want to ask Lenore a question, though. Clearly, this is a movie that's going to tends to appeal more towards guys. It's the whole plot and everything there, I think, is more... I think they make the attempt, though, because clearly they wanted money from everybody to show up there. So, there is some costuming in there. There is some, humor in there. Did it sort of interest you at all? Or did it repel you? Did it push you away? Did you not care?
It's not a bad movie, especially not by the standards of the time. But all I can think of in the end is Valentine's not staying married very long. Although I don't think divorce exists yet, so probably he's not going to get married to begin with. And the other thing I could think of is if he dies during his next tour in the military, his friends are going to really regret that.
Ooh, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Actually, part of me is thinking that if he does die in the second tour, the wife, fiance, I don't know if they're actually married at the end, fiance, wife,
Fiance.
It'd
be a really cool movie if she gets revenge on them.
That would have been a cool scene.
Right,
There we
so
go. That's the sequel.
there
That's
you
her
go.
revenge.
There you
Yeah.
go. 25 years later, and they're old men, and he died in battle, and she comes back to poison them or something.
With
Yeah.
elephant medicine.
Writing
Elephant
Annie.
medicine.
A sequel that never
Annie
happened.
the Avenger.
Annie, oh.
Yeah, what's the name of the Valentine's love in that movie? What's her name?
Oh.
Character?
Yeah, what was her name? What was
Oh.
Joe Fontaine's name?
Emmy.
Emmy.
There we go.
Yeah,
We call it Emmy and Annie.
Emmy
You're
and
like-
Annie.
Thelma and Louise, but elephant and female version.
So
And-
I
you know.
believe this movie got re-released to the theaters in 1952, and either right before that or right after that, they did a Rat Pack version of this.
Oh, wow.
With Sammy Davis Jr. playing Gunga Din. And it is terrible. Absolutely terrible.
There is a remake of this movie?
Yes.
Wait,
Like
so I only know about two members of the Rat Pack, and that was
Frank Sinatra
and Sammy
and
Davis.
Sammy Davis Jr. And there were a couple other ones.
Dean Martin. I
Dean
think.
Martin was in it. Dean Martin played the Cary Grant
Oh
role.
my god.
Yeah, so they
So who did Frank Sinatra play the McChesney role?
he played Cutter, I believe.
Oh, Cutter. Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, it came out. It was bad. It was really bad.
Oh,
Really,
yeah.
really bad.
That
I'm not
sounds
sure any
horrible.
member of the Rat Pack was really a good actor.
No, they
They were all
weren't.
singers, weren't they?
But they were great alcoholics. They were one of them. They could drink. They could drink and they could party. But yeah, they made this, and I can't tell you why.
Wait, so that exists somewhere?
It exists somewhere. I you know
YouTube it.
I very rarely it would pop on like I don't know TMC or something like that back in the day.
Should
Wow.
watch that one and have another one of these and call it Gunga Don't.
Yeah, very
Gunga
good.
Don't.
Yeah, please don't. That
Oh my goodness.
was amazing. So
That's
anyway,
horrible.
I'm glad that I had a chance to show this film off. There are some sort of modern critics who look at this, I think, from a too modern a perspective, and they kind of bring in other stuff like colonialism and racism and all this other stuff. And I'm like, it was just a product of their times. It was not pushing a particular agenda other than to entertain people and have a fun time, in my opinion.
So there was a part where you wanted to debate something with him. So
Right.
you guys want to get into that now?
I think it was the racist
It's
stuff.
I mean like it's fine, like the standards of the time, like 1939 standards for what was acceptable are considered racist by standards today. Like I don't need to justify whether or not the movie holds up to moral codes in order to decide whether or not it has value. I think that it does. It's an interesting movie.
Sure.
And there's no need to dive down the
Especially
the political.
When you compare
role
it
in that
to
sense.
the other
It's fine.
1939 movie that did win a bunch of awards, which is Gone with the Wind, which is extremely racist, a whole lot more racist than this movie was. Worse, much, much worse. And a much,
And longer.
oh my God, and a much worse film. It's so melodramatic. It is a terrible movie, in my opinion. Just awful. And yeah, the depiction of black people and that, and the whole repainting history because, slaves were happy being slaves. Well, a bunch of crap. That is an offensive movie to me.
Was Selznick a Bruckheimer of his day?
That's how I paint him. That's what he wanted to do. Make these big, huge, giant, empty-headed blockbusters.
Well, I don't know. I own Gone with the Wind. I've never seen it yet. I need to watch it at some point just to say I've seen it, and everything. It might not be like a Film Freaks level kind of thing, but it's highly regarded as like an AFI top.
Oh, sure.
Whatever. So I
A
don't
lot
know
of people
if it's,
love it.
And we, in my history class, we saw some scenes from it.
Oh yeah, what did you guys talk about?
We hated it.
I'll
Yeah.
bet.
Okay.
It's an awful
we
movie.
also saw a
Which
lot of
movie?
like World War II propaganda with Daffy Duck and stuff.
And then, the other big movie that came out at this time, I wouldn't say it's racist, but I can't say that I love it, and that's Wizard of Oz. I just,
Yeah.
it just never got me. I never liked it.
Doesn't
Wait,
depict
the
green
original
people
one?
very well.
Yeah,
Or small people.
Yeah, or small people like.
Oh well,
Or
yeah. There we
flying
go.
monkeys.
Oh well, all the stories of how the, the Munchkins were treated on that.
That's right, I've heard.
Have been not been
The small people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
little
or
people.
poor
Is this
Munchkins.
the original one, the one in color?
Right. I think
Yeah,
so.
it was in black and white, then turned to color when they get to
And
be-
just, oh my God, so much odious singing. I just couldn't stand it.
Oh, but I
Yeah,
mean,
we
I
watched that in history class.
I really enjoy that movie.
I
I
like
don't know.
Wizard of Oz a lot,
I'm not gonna
so-
participate in it. Was
I
a
think,
trashy movie, but that beginning scene. I mean, I'm sorry, but there's never been anything like the Munchkin Land, like that opening. I mean, the Lollipop Guild. I love that song.
Yeah.
I know you might.
Oompa Loompas would kick their ass.
They probably would.
Probably would, but
So,
just because they're
I
used to
didn't-
pushing
I
things.
didn't watch The Wizard of Oz for history. It was part of an economics class.
Really? That's
Yeah.
curious.
Yeah.
He said the teacher said the whole thing was an allegory for the movement that was starting in farmlands regarding like silver and gold coins and currencies.
Huh.
I don't remember all of the
Okay.
details.
What? Wow.
Okay,
I
great.
guess that works.
I preferred Return to Oz, which
Oh
was
my
a
God.
much darker film with where
Where
the
they're
chick
all-
from the craft.
Where the bad guys are wearing rollerblades the
yes,
whole movie.
Yes.
What's her name? Farouza Balk.
Oh yeah, Fairuza Balk. I love that
Oh, my
movie.
goodness.
That was cool. That was a
Where
weird.
they have the
dark
lunchbox trees.
movie.
Wait, wasn't there like a black Wizard of Oz? Like,
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
with-
The Wiz.
The Wiz.
Wiz.
I have
Oh,
not
God.
seen it.
I mean, I've
Yeah,
not
with,
seen it either.
Michael Jackson and Donna Summer.
Oh, really? Was Michael Jackson?
Yeah,
now I
Michael
want to
Jackson,
see
yeah.
it. Now I
Oh,
want to see it because
God.
I want to hear Michael. He didn't play like Oz, did he? Or did he play like?
No,
Or was he the
one of
Scarecrow?
I don't remember.
He was one of the 4 people marching down the yellow brick road.
Oh, so he's
Yeah.
one of them. Wow, he could.
That
I
was
don't.
the
I don't
one.
see him as the Tin Man. I
It
see him
was
more
a
the Scarecrow.
Disco Wizard of Oz.
No, that's fun though.
But anyway, getting back to this film.
I took I get in.
Compared to the other 2 movies, it was far less racist and far more adult oriented, even though it was more slapsticky and
Yeah,
fun.
more slapstick. and
balanced in my
silly at times, but like the silliness kind of
It's more elephants.
definitely more elephants.
and
Better
help.
animals.
The silliness helped out the movie. I think if it didn't have that like comedy, as I was saying, like I think I would have not enjoyed the movie if it were like too serious, So the fact that, and see, here's the thing, like, because I'm just getting back into like watching older movies and everything, and learning about older films. Especially since I'm going to Hollywood, I think it'd be a great idea to like know about the silver age of filmmaking and everything. And so my thing about it is a lot of times I didn't think like humor back then would translate to now. Like we wouldn't laugh at the same stuff that we laughed at back in the 1930s, but we could, like, it's timely kind of comedy.
Well, this did get 1 nomination for an Academy Award, and it was for cinematography, and that was Joseph August. There are some really, really great shots in this film, and not just the scenic ones. There are a couple of really, really fabulous close-ups of faces in this film. Gunga Din's face, the Guru's face, Cary Grant's face. There's some really, really great close-ups on that. And then there's some really, really good stuff where there's things happening in the foreground and there's stuff happening in the background, and you can see everything. So he used what I love, which is an extreme depth of focus, so that you can see everything in front of you, but you're also seeing everything in the background. Like he's going through the town, and you can see this little soldier up on top, and all of a sudden he gets garroted from behind.
Oh yeah, oh my God, that was great.
It was really, really cool, and your eye is trained on the soldiers as they're marching through the valley and everything, but you can't help but look at all of the mountains, and you can see the detail and the snow on the peaks and all the trees and everything. It just looked gorgeous. It really, really did. Yeah, I kind of wish he had won that, but at least he got the nomination.
So that was the only nomination for the Academy Awards.
Yeah.
You're saying how many nominations are there per year? Do you know, like
Well,
5 or 6?
it's different back then. They didn't have nearly as many
Oh, okay.
than they do now. Now they keep
Now
putting
they're
more
like,
and more
hey,
out.
let's just keep putting them on. You know, if we're nominated, you know, it's funny. But like back then, wow, I didn't know that. So yeah, so probably one of those, you know, those Gone with the Wind and Wizard of Oz.
Right.
And I mean, having seen this film, I'd have to see it more than once to kind of
Sure.
choose it as, but like it does hold up high to, like, I love Wizard of Oz so much that, like, that's a movie I could you know, I used to watch all the time. This movie I could probably watch all the time.
Right.
Which is surprising. Like when we did Matewan, I don't think I could watch it all the time. I could watch it every now and then, but I couldn't watch it a lot. You know, this movie I feel like I could watch a lot. You
It
know?
definitely deserves a second watching. There are things you would pick up and enjoy about it. It's not one of these movies where you've watched it once and then it's enough or something
Right.
like this. Yeah.
Sorry, what were you saying?
I think the difference is that Matewan didn't have a whole lot of humor.
Yeah.
It had some, but
It had a
it
couple.
was subdued.
This
It wasn't a
movie
very funny subject. It wasn't fun.
Yeah.
This movie was continuous humor. I mean, it's not. It's a comedy. It's
Right.
a solid comedy
Well,
in my opinion.
Think about it as it compares with Gone with the Wind and with Wizard of Oz. All three of them are escapism. Escapism at a time when life was just terrible for a lot of people. You know, the depression had ended, but it was the tail end of it was still there. Wouldn't stop really until after World War II. Yeah, it was a chance for people to sort of get away from their troubles and, in a very different way, provide entertainment than, say, the other two films.
Right.
So.
Yeah, it was a more realistic kind of thing than the fantasy level of Wizard of Oz. I think Gone with the Wind is a little bit more realistic as well too. So there was that, but that's also, like, I have this theory in my head that if you make like a 4-hour long movie, you're gonna get an Academy Award. You know, like the nomination, just because they spent so much time, money, and everything in it.
I could show you some movies
there's
that were
some
long,
movies that are really
that
long
are really bad, that never
Yeah.
won anything.
Okay, well,
The movie
I mean,
Skyscraper by what's the artist with the white hair that did that had the factory and did all this stuff. Anyway,
I think I know that one.
I don't know that one either.
never mind.
Not the Rock one. Right?
Andy Warhol
Oh,
shot a
Andy
movie
Warhol.
called Skyscraper, and it was 7 hours of going
Oh,
up the
God.
side of a
I mean, come on.
skyscraper.
Well, I'm saying more like Hollywood stuff.
Well, I mean, I love
whatever.
some. I mean, being able to sustain a full, longer story, tell a longer narrative is great, and I think that's what's happening on like Netflix and things like this, where you've got like mini series and short things where you have 10 hours basically of something that looks like it's a continuous.
Well,
film,
hold that thought, because one of the movies I intend for us to be doing for season 2 of Film Freaks is going to be Barry Lyndon, which is over 3 hours long.
You should do it for Criterion Watch, because it is a Criterion.
Yeah, well, I might do it for Criterion Watch, but I definitely want to do it.
Barry Lyndon is great because it's so unique in that genre of what was like, you know, you get this genre that's almost always like Pride and Prejudice and these romantic movies, and they're all about boy meets girl, and they just figure out all these head games with each other, and then they all end up happily ever after. And Barry Lyndon is just this brutal like story of this guy that lives selfishly and suffers for it. And I love it.
And best of all is the plot is really incidental. The movie is really more about Stanley Kubrick wanting to make a film that is exactly like an expressionist painting of the time, which is why he lights it with natural candlelight, and why he does things in certain ways to sort of emulate the painters of the period. It's amazing. Nobody does that. Nobody.
Just wait till I do my Criterion Watch of Heaven's Gate next year.
Nice.
Yes, another long movie that don't think went up for any Academy
No,
Awards.
it got panned.
It got panned pretty badly. But, I'm excited to talk about that because it is one of those movies that's actually really good. But Michael Cimino lit it like every shot was meticulous to exactly what his vision was. And so if you want to like watch a movie where the guy actually got every single frame the way he wanted it, that's the movie to watch, or whatever. And that's that. I don't know
So
if you've ever seen
there'll be
Heaven's Gate.
lots of good stuff coming up for season 2, both Criterion Watch and Film Freaks. So
Yeah,
hopefully you guys will come check us out.
We got so much stuff going on. So I guess this is the last episode of Film Freaks of
For
the
this
season. So we will be back next year. We've got, so as I think I've stated in other things, I'm not sure if it was in this one or not in the last episode, but just so you guys know, I'm going to be leaving to go to LA in January. And Paul's going to stay here in the studio, and he's going to be doing stuff with other people. And I'm going to be doing stuff with other people. And we're going to be doing it separately.
Yeah, we split our assets in half during the divorce, half 50-50.
50-50. But the coolest thing is the first month of January, you will be seeing me and Paul back. Like, it will not be, we're going to completely just cut it right then. He's coming up to Hollywood with me, so when we go up there, we're going to do a bunch of videos and stuff.
I'm sure I will earn my star on the Hollywood Wall of Fame.
Jay and Bob did.
Yeah.
They just got one. So
I thought you could purchase them.
Yes, you can.
you can. So if he wants to purchase one, go ahead.
There you go.
Buy one of those. But they're expensive.
Yeah, I might just leave like a piece of gum or something.
Okay, yeah, a gum with your name
that.
on it. There you go.
There you go.
Or a cow sticker.
Do it. But you gotta do it on somebody you don't like, so you don't ruin somebody's one you actually do like. So that's pretty much what we're gonna be doing. We want to thank you guys so much for a great season. Sorry we only got 4 episodes out. I think we wanted to do more, but just
so much going on.
There's so much going on, and it was really hard to kind of fit things into our schedule. But we did, and we finished it.
And we had a couple other episodes. They just weren't videos.
Oh yeah, we did, didn't we?
Right.
Well,
we're going to release them.
We're going to release them on video. It's just going to be like a podcast video thing of.
Right. So there will be 2 more.
I think there's
Halloween is one.
Yeah, Halloween was one of them, and Ed Wood was the other one.
Yeah.
So there you go. And those might end up being like another one that we redo as a video or something with other people, and everything.
I'm sure when you're out in Hollywood, you can pigeonhole Johnny Depp and get him to sit down, and you can do a Film Freaks video with him.
I wouldn't do Ed Wood if I had him. I would do something he wasn't in. I would want to find out what Johnny Depp's favorite movie is, and that would be what we would do the Film Freaks on.
Fair enough.
But that's if I can.
Favorite movie? Wow.
Yeah, I would wonder what his favorite movie is. Johnny Depp, if you're watching, tell us what your favorite movie is.
I'm sure he is. He follows.
I mean, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas was great, and I'm really glad that you shot Hunter S. Thompson out of a cannon. So tell us.
Yeah, definitely. I would actually. That's a Criterion film, so that could be on our list for one of the seasons of Criterion Watch. So yeah, like we said, basically, Paul's gonna be doing them here, and I'm gonna be doing them out there.
So half
we'll
and half.
We'll have guests. It may not be 4 people or something. May just be 2 or 3. But you never know how many will show up. So
we'll definitely have Todd the Cow here.
not for mine. Sorry, I can't cut him in half.
No.
I don't think Paul would like that much.
Not at all.
No.
And we won't have Lady back, which unless we do one more in June when I come back to visit, we will be doing a Film Freaks. So she might be back for
and
one episode.
hopefully you guys will come back at some point. You never know.
Yeah.
Never know.
So hopefully you'll be around and stuff for sure, and you show up and come by and everything. So thank you guys. This is awesome.
Thanks
this
for
is a lot
hanging
of fun.
out, being part of our Film Freaks family.
Being part of the Film Freaks family. So if you like us, check us out on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and check us out on sickflickproductions.com.
YouTube.
YouTube, and also I think there's a link or something on the Indie Film Cafe website, right? About
Probably,
it.
yeah.
So just check out indiefilmcafe.reviews. All these different awesome stuff that we're doing. Also, I think there's going to be a link down below for our Indiegogo for My Girlfriend the Serial Killer. That's going to be our first feature film
Please
that we're
donate. We
working on.
appreciate it.
And we've been working on another teaser, so hopefully something cool will be coming soon.
And maybe you'll see a couple familiar faces. You never know.
Maybe.
Familiar bodies, anyway.
So hopefully you'll see something like that
Dead bodies.
in the next week or two or whatever. When this is released, I think you'll see more stuff going on.
There you go.
Thank you guys so much for checking this out. If you guys enjoyed it, please subscribe and give us a thumbs up.
Film freaks.
Film
Movies we love.
Movies that we love, because we're film freaks.
There you go.
So
Bye everyone.